All-Star Game. So yeah, no, listen, it was I'll say this. I know we're obviously going to focus on the ending. I thought it was just a very well done night and celebration of baseball overall. You had the Hank Aaron stuff, Joe Torre coming out there for half a second, players mic'd up, Clayton Kershaw, I'm throwing 88 down the middle here, somebody help me. I just thought it was an awesome night overall, obviously capped by a very unique and very fun ending there.
It was an awesome night that we thought was going to end with the National League running away with it, but then it became a ball game at the end, and you throw that in, and then you throw in the drama. Like, honestly, as the game was progressing, one of the things that we know that the All-Star Game will do is they will have some sort of tribute, some bigger than others. And you mentioned that the one for Hank Aaron was last night, I believe, after the sixth inning is when they did it. What's interesting about the Hank Aaron tribute is that they are like a ballpark removed from the ballpark that it actually happened
right?
in. So, like, this is the park, and then previously it was Turner Field, which was the former Olympic Stadium, which was right next door to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, where Hank Aaron had hit that home run. So it missed the mark with me on a little, especially when they had the spot where Hank Aaron's home run landed, where it lit up. And I haven't been to the spot in a while. I assume that it's still there. But the old Atlanta Fulton County Stadium is right next to where the Olympic and where the Braves then formerly played. Now it's College Football Stadium for Georgia State, I believe, plays there. But they have the infield of Atlanta Fulton County Stadium paved with the diamond. And there's a spot in the outfield where the ball went over and where the ball hit. So last night when you're seeing it on the All-Star Game and you're seeing that tribute to Hank Aaron, which you're right, it was one of the many great things last night, like the spot of that home run and where it landed is very important to the Hank Aaron story because we all remember that highlight. And it was just really neat to see. You could park in that parking lot in a Braves game, and the inner walls of Atlanta Fulton County Stadium are still up. That it's not the outfield walls, but just of the structure of where the stadium was, because a little bit of it went into the ground. But it's a neat history thing for people that like to go back and check out all ballparks. And I haven't been there in about 10 years, so I don't know if it's all the same. But when I was there the last time, they had a diamond so you could see where Hank Aaron stood, and then you could see where the ball landed because they had a section put out in that parking lot of the fence, and it was lit up, and then the backdrop afterwards. It's really neat if you're a baseball fan to see. But seeing that last night and being like, well, this isn't the park, but they're still highlighting the place, shutting down the lights, doing the run around the bases, I thought was really well done.
Yeah, like I said, I thought it was just, listen, it is ultimately, an exhibition game, and that's what we're going to talk about, how it ended. But I think given that it's an exhibition game, and by the way, how about this? Given that quite literally every other All-Star game that we still have continues to fall flat on its face and feel less and less what it's supposed to be about, I thought yesterday the return to the standard, home road team uniforms, and on top of all of that, all of the other cool stuff they did to honor the president and pass the game, I thought overall was really cool.
All right, I think there's some good and some bad, because along with that, I'd put the bad of those hats. I have no idea on what they're doing. Like they weren't crowned like they normally were. There was no seam down the middle. Stars replaced the poke holes that you would have normally. It was a very weird looking hat. Wasn't a huge fan of the All-Star cap. Was just really, really odd. I didn't mind the ABS system. In fact, I liked the ABS system last night because of the drama that it provided.
Sure.
And to see it work on that stage. Now, I don't know if you're going to have as many smiles and laughs in a regular season game or in a playoff game with it, but I thought that portion of it worked really well when you challenge a call and then by a millimeter, the ball hits the strike zone and Randy Arozarena ends up striking out on a call. It went the other way on a previous scenario. I think the drama of it, which is what I always loved about Cyclops in tennis, was there was drama whether the ball was in or out.
Sure.
So you have this whole progression of, is it in? Is it out? Oh, it was really close. Or then if it's really far, you're like, oh, that was an awful challenge. It wasn't even close. I thought last night, that it worked really, really well. And if you're Major League Baseball and want to put this in, I think that last night was a huge win for you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Only from the perspective that, like you said, it being an all-star game. I don't know. Like, we obviously need to keep human umpires, and it's listen. I get that sometimes there's a better way to do stuff. All you're doing is setting yourself up to have pissed off umpires nonstop, and maybe it doesn't matter, and maybe you don't care, and maybe this, maybe that, maybe whatever. Maybe it's just about getting it right. For balls and strikes, I don't know. It's cool. I'm watching it right now on my computer. It is cool. Like you said, in tennis it works. We figured it out. It's not a huge deal, whatever. It's just, I don't know. It feels, maybe it's like anything else. Maybe it'll just take a little getting used to. So
what I don't like the middleman of it. I feel you go all in or you don't.
Exactly.
On it. Like if you're going to go all in, you're going all in. Then the strike zone is the strike zone. Because otherwise, if a guy is not calling a strike throughout the game, meeting an umpire, and then you challenge it, and it's an inside strike, and then all of a sudden you go to the ABS, and he's been calling that a ball all along, and now it's a strike. I think that you're screwed in that essence. But I think that last night, like the takeaway from it, and we could get into the pluses and minuses of it, but the takeaway of it is you put it in that setting, you make it in a spot where people are laughing and enjoying it and adding some drama. For Major League Baseball, that's the biggest win that you can have. Maybe Randy Arozarena doesn't care if he strikes out last night on a bad call or a call that ended up being overturned, but if the Mariners are fighting for, a wild card spot or fighting for the AL West division, and on the final weekend you get a call like that, completely different reaction, but it doesn't matter for Major League Baseball as the system would already push in. Like last night's referendum on it was overwhelmingly positive for a transition to the ABS system.
Yeah, no, and I think that, yes, it can be viewed as positive because in theory it is a step in the right direction, and in theory it is ultimately about getting the call right. I guess just what I would say is that, like I said, I there's a difference between doing it because you want to get every call right, which I know in theory we all want to do, and then to your point, it being game 162 and a playoff berth is on the line and you think it went one way and you thought it went another way. And then to your point, there's going to still be the human element of umpiring in a strike zone, even if you have ABS. I guess it, like I said, and like you said, it was cool in the moment. I'm just a little skeptical about it working bigger picture.
Jason Stewart loves the ABS system, the show's executive producer. You've always wanted it. Did you feel last night portrayed what could be the future of Major League Baseball?
Absolutely it did. My take going into the game was that MLB was doing the umpires a disservice by having ABS in an all-star game where you're supposed to be celebrating all the great aspects of the game. But everything, you talk about the laughter after they were reversed, and then the entire audience was seeing a massive flaw in the game right now, which is the technology caught up to the umpires a long time ago. So the umpires on a night-to-night basis, if you're watching important games, you see the umpires screwing up every time. So my thing was, why roll it out for an exhibition game when you could actually just have it in place for games that matter in the postseason? I'm all for it. You're not going to lose any home plate umpire jobs. They still have plenty to do behind the plate. But stop embarrassing your umpires. Everything that we loved about ABS last night was at the expense of one guy that was getting the call wrong, right?
Yes. I felt bad for who got the home run or the home plate assignment.
Yeah.
Like in finding out, like, guess what, honey, I got the nod. I'm going to be the home plate umpire for the All-Star game. And I'm going to be second guessed throughout because of all the calls that I made. Like nobody else is. Like if you're at first base and you're the first base ump, who cares? Second base, same thing. Right field line, left field line, which I think they have in the All-Star game like they do in the postseason. Who cares? But home plate ump gets screwed last night. To that effect, if they do go full-time ABS, just give the ump a chair back there during the at-bat, and then when the action happens and you need to call a guy out at home, then you can stand up. But I think that just have him sit back and chill behind the catcher. That would be the way to go. They could test that out at next year's All-Star game.
That would be a fun thing to test out.
The official chair.
Well, yeah, it gets complicated with wild pitches and things of that nature, but That would be a fun
Put some
thing.
rollers on it. There's no big deal.
Rollers on it.
Lazy Boy, the new official sponsor of Major League Baseball. The in-game interviews. Too much? We were Fox Sports. Was it too much by Fox last night, or just enough?
I feel like I'm being negative. It was an awesome event. It worked because it was the All-Star Game. Like Clayton Kershaw, joking about, throwing it right down the middle, wish me luck. Like, that's fun when you're 38 years old and you know that this is going to be your last All-Star Game and you're just there to have a good time. Two things. One, can be weird for the players. I'll also say this. In theory, it sounds fun for the fans. A lot of fans don't like it, though. Like, I was somewhere, and I believe it was a Subway Series game, but there was a Sunday night game with the Mets, and they mic'd up Lindor, and they were talking to him during the game. And they were they were showing his wife, and you just had baby number 2 or 3 or whatever it was. And you go on social media, and I know social media isn't a direct reflection, but it was like, dude, I'm not a fan of the Mets. I don't want to hear this. I don't care about his wife and how they travel and kid number 2 versus kid number 3. And I hate to be mean to his wife and his kids, but I'm just saying. And so, again, I thought it worked because it's the All-Star Game. But I do think if it becomes a 162 kind of deal, 162 games, then it's almost like the interview with the NBA coach after the first quarter where, like, Greg Popovich clearly doesn't want to do it, but clearly has to do it. And I would worry that it would be a little bit of beating a dead horse.
I felt they probably did a little too much. And I also would say this. I think you can't start with the starting pitcher because everything else is less. Like, I would build up to it. Like, if you want to talk to the first baseman, talk to Pete Crow Armstrong in the outfield like they did. And there was a point where he and Kyle Tucker, who are Cubs teammates, were, do you have that ball or not? So it was great because he was mic'd up at the time. But you're not going to get better than Tarek Skubal. And I'm saying getting shelled in Skubal relation because he rarely does. But of him giving up hits and runs and you're mic'd up in the first inning, like how do you top that? Like, it was like, to me, that was the high point. And nothing that you could say to Matt Olson in the 8th when he's playing first base could come close to what it's like to Tarek Skubal, who's likely on his way to winning another Cy Young Award, actually getting roughed up.
Sure.
Like, there was nothing that you could do from that. So that may have just been bad luck by Fox, but ultimately it's different if you have Lindor or if you have PCA out in the outfield getting interviewed. The top level is the pitcher. And I felt like they started out. It's like if you're a rock band, you start out with your most popular song, and then you're like, here's the rest of the concert. That's what I think last night at least could have been better. And there were a lot of there felt like there were a lot of interviews. Like, when they got to Matt Olson, basically all you're saying is like, what do you think of Mizorowski, who's throwing heat right now? You got to love these fans. All right, thanks, Matt. See you later. Like, and that's in the 8th inning. So there's only so much you could do with it. But I do think to get Skubal to be able to talk like he did in that scenario was ultimately a huge win.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference between how they handled it last night with the number of interviews they did and, having 1 or 2 situations over the course of a game. To me, it almost equates to the Manning cast, right? Like, the Manning cast is kind of fun if there's a unique guest or whatever, but it's like, I don't know that I want, at least I don't, I can't speak for, I don't want 4 quarters of the Manning cast. Now, like, if it's Brady on during a Patriots game and they're whatever, that's different. And so I just bring it up because I feel like that's kind of how I feel about the mic'd up players. So.
Well, I think ultimately what everybody is talking about, it leads us to the end. And I don't believe that Major League Baseball had a list of players. I don't think that was the case. I've been to a few All-Star games before. I even told Monty yesterday I was at the one in New York that ended up at, we were there at like 1:35 in the morning. Like, it just kept, there was extra innings going and going. And I remember because we had post-game duties that we're sitting in the tunnel at about, maybe the 9th or 10th inning, just kind of waiting for the game to end and somebody to score and to go in. And the coworker that I was with knew Francisco Rodriguez, K-Rod. Mm-hmm. And so like he walked by and was like, hey, what's up? So he's a reliever. His night's done, so he's gone. Like,
Sure.
The game's still going on.
Yep.
Like Tarek Skubal probably wanted to leave, but he's like, well, if I'm going to be on the hook for the loss, I'm sure they're going to want to talk to me. But he's out there at the bottom of the ninth inning in street clothes. And John Heyman had a tweet that said this list was predetermined, but there were some alterations due to travel issues. Yeah, guys just
Left
take off.
bounce, yeah.
That was the problem with 2002 is people were also gone. Like players
yep.
weren't there anymore. Players leave the home run derby early because they got parties and places to go to and people to see. And now like your All-Star break is Tuesday night until you go back to your team maybe on Thursday for these teams. So you want to have like 36 hours to wherever you go. So I don't think it was predetermined because there's no way that you have Aranda hitting 11 home runs being your third home run hitter. Not that you would bring Judge to be like, Aaron, I got some bad news. You got to go put the uniform
on. Yeah,
yes. If you want to do it in jeans, that's fine. Go right ahead, which I thought would have been great. But for the ending was great. Like Kyle Schwarber made it the
Sure.
moment again. I think that some of it was fly by the seat of the pants on however they were going to do it. I like this home run derby better than the one that we saw Monday night.
Yep.
And just doing it in terms of swings, guys getting their reps but to have Schwarber end it the way that he did, to have it be drama-filled with the AL taking the early lead, Rooker hit a couple, and you're like, wow, he had 2 out of 3. How's the NL going to respond? There was gamesmanship of it. Like, ultimately, that is all we're going to remember. We can talk about ABS. We can talk about in-game interviews. We can talk about Mizorowski being snubbed and then Ken Rosenthal asking him about it in the dugout. All of that, what we're going to remember is what Kyle Schwarber did last night, and ultimately, that's the biggest win Major League Baseball could have.
Well, you brought up an interesting point in our pre-show meeting, which is that, people are saying, oh, it's the best All-Star game since, and it's like, I don't really remember a lot about but it's like
to compare, I have no idea. Yes.
But to your point, everyone's going to remember how it ended, and everyone's going to remember this was the first of potentially, there's potentially times in the future where it's going to happen, but this is the first time that we saw it. And I like it because it's fun. It stays with the theme of All-Star Weekend, of it's an exhibition, it's a celebration of baseball. I know I keep saying that, but it's like, I know that for some, they want the nice, clean resolution of a winner and a loser. It's an exhibition. That's ultimately all that it is. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in everything has to be this super serious, super whatever thing. And to me, this is like, the bowl game that they pour mayo on the coach at the end. Like, it's okay to have fun at a bowl game. It really doesn't mean anything. And the All-Star game, obviously, since we've taken away home field advantage, really doesn't mean anything. So have fun. Be cool. This is a cool way to end it.
I want to ask Monty because she had information earlier on there was a player that wanted this maybe ending to go further. But just for what you said, Jason Stewart, you kind of were put in your place, kind of what Aaron Torres was just saying right now by someone last night on social media.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, to your point, Dan, I had criticized Fox Bean and Tarek Skubal,
Yeah, Skubal.
his ear. They put a graphic up. He's never given up more than 3 hits in an inning or something. I'm like, yeah, because he's never had Joe Davis talking to him in the middle of a windup before. This is weird. I thought it was weird. So I put out a tweet, a snarky tweet, as I do. And some guy's like, dude, yeah, I guess it would be a big deal if it wasn't an exhibition game and this game doesn't count. And he basically said, relax. And I'm like, you're right. As long as you accept everything is a circus, then why be offended by anything that happened last night?
Yeah.
If you're playing a football game in the Bahamas in December, we don't need – you get the point.
Yeah, I understand. Who said what?
Logan Webb mentioned that he has a group text going on and that the players in said group text feel that they should do this instead of playing an extra inning game, that they should just do it like that.
I don't agree with
That's
that.
dumb.
I think that last night was fun and for the moment. Go ahead, Monty.
I was just going to add that apparently Justin Turner said this in 2020, that when the game is still tied after 10 innings, it should be a home run derby. And so now that story is tracking again because he said this in 2020. And so that it should be a home run derby to decide games tied after 10 innings.
It's the most, I guess, direct relation to what a shootout would be in hockey, PKs and soccer, like that sort of thing. Like that's that's kind of the equivalent of it. I know people don't like the runner starting at second. I actually do. I think that it's an interesting twist. A little bit in college, like in college football, their overtime isn't perfect. But if you don't cash in on your possession to start, changes everything.
Sure.
So every play means something. And I feel that like if you're in an extra inning game and you have a runner on second base, if you don't cash in the top half, like, oh boy, this is going to be tricky. Maybe you don't want to put him at second. Maybe you want to put the runner at first. But in a way I don't mind it. I think this would be hokey to do it because then it's just like, well, guess what? We got Aaron Judge. The Yankees 142-1 in extra inning game. That's what it would end up coming down to.
Well, and I think it's very 2025. One, everything being in the moment at this exact second, and then two, everybody having access to a phone and social media, and I include myself. I'm guilty of tweeting in the moment sometimes, but it's like, it is, to your point, very stupid. Again, it's fun on July 15th at the All-Star Game that ultimately means nothing. To your point, Yankees, whatever, Orioles, game 162, you got to win to get in, and it's like, oh, and by the way, counter to that, so-and-so's hurt. So-and-so's this. We're a pitching and defense team that isn't built on home runs. What about the ballpark? It's a short porch and right, but we're on the road and we don't have any lefties. It's just such the Gen Z, and I sound like such an old man. It's such the Gen Z in the moment. This is the coolest thing ever. We have to do it. No, it was cool in the moment. That doesn't mean it'd be cool in every moment.
I won't even blame Gen Z. What I'm going to say is it's when you go on vacation, you're like, we should move here.
Yes.
No, it's awesome. It's because you're on vacation.
Yeah.
Like if you were there 52 weeks out of the year,
that's
probably not as great. You know what? It's awesome to stay at a hotel room for like a weekend. My son loves the hotel. He has no idea what it's like to live in a hotel for like 8 straight days, and you just can't wait to leave. You have to eat out every night, which I know may sound awesome, but it's not that awesome. That's what this is.
It's like a date on any bachelor show. One of the two of the couple always says the following: "I can get used to this." Yeah. A resort on an island on TV. Yeah, where your food's free. Yeah, I can get used to this.
On a second date when
I don't have to pay for the room or any of the extra stuff. Yeah,
I haven't met your parents yet. Yeah, exactly.